I'm here today at the home of Martin Lowenberg. Today is November the 9th, 2020, and it's the 82nd anniversary of Kristallnacht. And I have the distinct honor and privilege of interviewing Martin Lowenberg to share some recollections about his experience, what he and his family endured 82 years ago today. So Martin, can you first just tell us how old you were on Kristallnacht, where you were living, and who you were living with?
Okay. I was, first of all, it was November the 8th of, November the 7th and 8th of 1938. And I was, at the time, after we had to move already from our home, which we were forced to sell in a little village, and we moved to a city of Fulda, Fulda, where a lot more people were still, Jewish people were still living, even though many of them had already emigrated out of Germany. And also, naturally, the village that we had been living in was already pretty much already vacant of people that used to live there, and they could no longer live there. So we now lived in a city of Fulda. However, prior to that, this was in 1938, but prior to that, in 1936, my parents had to already send me and my sister Eva away to a school in Frankfurt. My sister Eva was in Frankfurt. My sister Margot, who was also in Frankfurt, in a school, and my older siblings already had been able to be. My older siblings already emigrated to Palestine. Who his name was my older sister's name was Berta and or Bertie and Hans. So we were actually 5 children at that particular time in 1938. But so the 2 were already in Palestine, and the oldest ones. And my sister Margot and Eva were in Frankfurt, and I had been in a home, in a big children's home in Fulda, and it was called Bad Nauheim. It was a very large children's home, and here is this was the children's home, and I am right over here. I'm right over here when I was 7 years old. And I was already separated from my parents at the time, and for 2 years, from 1936 until 1938. I could no longer live at home with my family because, first of all, because of education, and number 2, it was also because of my parents wanted me to get the proper schooling, which I could no longer get anywhere else. So since this was a very large children's home where I was able to live amongst other Jewish children, and also we had our um, Yom Tovim. We had everything that we that we enjoy as religious Jews.
And so when Kristallnacht occurred, were you still in the school, or were you already back in your parents' home in Fulda?
When in 1938, we were forced to move away from our home in the one that originally I was born in called Schenklingsfeld, and that was where our families always lived. But in there I had to move. Then from there in 1938 we were forced to move because we could not get a minion, we couldn't get anything anymore, so we had to move to a larger city where there were more Jews, and the largest one nearby was Fulda, Fulda.
Were you still in school in November 1938, or you already were sent back home?
In 1938, we were living in Fulda. So I was already. Our family was now together. Eva and I, and we. By that time in 1938, my parents had twin boys who were born in 1934. We were 7 children altogether.
How old were you in 1938?
In 1938, I was 8 years old. It was after the at the Kristallnacht, where we will come to. I was now. That was the year I was bar mitzvah. I was 13
You're 13 years
I
old.
was 13 years old. In 1938, I was born in 1923. See.
So what happened? What did you experience? What did you see those days of November 7th, November 8th, November 9th in Fulda?
So in November, in 1938, actually 1938, all of a sudden we heard this terrible noise, the screaming, the yelling, in the streets, the smashing of glass that was Jewish shops, and everything was. It was so much destruction in the streets, and the yelling and the screaming about the Jews. We could not even, we would not bear take away from our windows or anything. We had to stand in back of the window, inside in our little apartment that we were now living in Fulda, and we were afraid, we were scared, we didn't know what happened. We lived on the second floor, and I will show in a little bit what it looks like today and what it looked at that time, where it was, how it was.
Did you know that something was going to happen? Was there word on the street that
there was nothing? No. It was on that particular day, on November the 8th, there was nothing noticeable, because then it suddenly bursted out with the screaming in the streets and so forth, and of course the Jews, and they were smashing. There was a Jewish small department store right across from us, and the display windows were were smashed, and the Jewish couple did not live there. They lived in just more or less feet away. Had an apartment, and their name was Tokes, and but the department store's name was Bear, and it was smashed. It was, and of course, people were taken from their homes, were dragged from their homes and taken into the streets and beaten, and the people were yelling, and some of them said, "Don't do it," but yet the others, those people that did that terrible devastation, were wild. They thought they could do anything because they were Jews, because they were told to go ahead and do it, do as much as you can.
What did your parents tell you?
We were afraid, staying back. There was nothing my parents could say anything. Nobody could say anything because we were afraid. We were just trying to go into the corner there and try to hide, that they would not find us.
Did you live near the shul, the synagogue in Fulda?
We were right behind the synagogue.
And what happened to the synagogue?
The synagogue already, it was bursting in flames. The synagogue, and it was smashed. Everything was thrown out. The siddurim was thrown out. The benches were already smashed. Everything was already it was devastated.
Could you see the flames?
Did we see the flames? We saw the flames right in front of our eyes. Yes, definitely. Because where were the flames? Right here. The flames were right here. I will show in a little while what today what is being done to those places, and what is being done, which is unbelievable, really. When you think about this, is what it looks today, and the names are even on the wall. You'll see it in a little bit.
Did anything happen to your family? Did anyone come to your apartments?
Nobody could come. Nobody could even get in. Nobody, because we had everything locked up. You see, and that's the only way we could. And it's just that nobody would come over to us, and people that even liked us and so forth, and we were good neighbors. They wouldn't even try not to let anybody in, because these were men and boys in their youth who were doing this, and of course maybe some women also. That I don't remember.
Do you remember when you were first able to leave your apartment, and did you feel safe?
That was days after. That was only days after that we were able to get back out on the street again, when everything quieted down.
Your father, at some point your father was taken away.
Well, that's what I say. So the next day, it was the next day they already announced that the men over 18, over 16 and 18, and mostly 18, had to meet at a certain place.
This is on November the 10th?
This was this was December the 9th. The Kristallnacht was on the 7th and the 8th, and then, when Kristallnacht, the reason it's called Kristallnacht, because everything looked like a broken glass. Broken glass was like broken crystal, because the sound of the glass was so it was crystallized. But the next day, on the 9th and 10th, then there was announcement that all the men, and of course it was announced to the head of the Jewish community, and then of course they came and they said that the men had to meet at the place where the shul was, and then they were taken away. Where, we did not know.
Did your father know that they were going to be
We
taken away?
did not know anything. Naturally, my father didn't know anything. My father only knew because he was actually it was an officer in the German army in 1914, 1918. My father was not even home in 1914, 18. 4 years, because he was fighting up in Russia for Germany, to win. But this was, look at how many years later he was the he became a prisoner because he was a Jew.
Where was he taken to
Well, where when?
after Kristallnacht? Where did they take him
Oh,
to?
they were taken to the main place. They were taken to the main place. I mean, just to like what should I say? Just to the
A
city,
square.
to the city square. That's right.
And from there-
the men were there, and then they were taken away by train. And where they went to, we did not know. We didn't know where they were taken to. In other words, we were without our fathers.
How long was he away for?
He was gone for about 4 weeks.
And where did they go? Where did he go to?
Well, some of them said they took them to Poland, to Lodz, or to some city in Poland. Nobody would ever hear of Buchenwald or anything like that. But then we found out very fast that the news got very fast that the men were taken most likely to Buchenwald. Buchenwald was not too very far, was about 70, 80 miles from where we lived. That's all. But we didn't know.
What did your mother do during those 4 weeks? Did she try to find where he was? Did she?
You could not do that. You couldn't do that. Only what you hear by word of mouth, maybe. But we didn't know for sure if he was in Buchenwald. What was Buchenwald? We didn't. Nobody knew what Buchenwald was.
Were you able to go back to school after this?
We went after a few weeks. We went to the school. Where's the school? The school was devastated. The school was already, but we were able to. We had our teacher. His name was my teacher was Weinberg, and he was in a room someplace, you know. He tried to collect all the children and try to teach us, try to teach the different grades at the time.
Were you scared after this? Were you afraid?
We were always scared. We were always scared because what can happen? Where's our father? Where's anybody? Nobody knew.
Did your family know who the people were who were breaking the glass, who were?
We were in a city. We didn't know people. We didn't know anybody in Fulda because we had just moved there, you know, a couple of years ago. Who did we know? You see, and we knew, you know, the ones that were doing the devastation and so forth. It was only mostly by assumption, and young boys and whoever they had the permission to do anything they want to choose. But then finally, there were city fathers that really said, enough is enough, but still not. There were still pockets who were hurting the Jews all over.
When your father came back, were you hopeful things were going to
We were
get better?
scared, but some of the men already came back. Some of them already had papers and visas to go to America, to go to Palestine. But where could we go? Here we were in Fulda alone. My mother, my sister Eva, the twins, little babies, and I. You see, who was going to take us? Who was going to vouch for us? Somebody has to vouch for money. Where do we get the money now? We don't have any money for the house that was sold in the village, in the Chengdeksa. There was no more money. They wouldn't give us any money. So where do we go? Some people were smart already. They had put money away. Some of them hid it. Some of them put it away. Where would you go? Where are you going with your children? Put yourself in that position. Where do you go with your children? Who are you going to go to? To your parents? Your parents can't go. Both of your parents cannot go. Your brother? This is exactly what the scenario is. What it looks like. What are we going to do? Let's see if something is going to happen. Some went to South America. Some of them went here. But they had money. We didn't have any more money. Everything was taken away. The banks are closed. The banks would not cover us for anything. So who's going to give you money? Did you have money under your mattress? Yes, some people did. You see.
Was your father able to go back to work after?
Work was only for the men.
When your father came back, was he able to go back to work?
Work was take a shovel and shovel dirt. That's all. There was no work. There was no. The men, the Jewish men, were only assigned to dig ditches and bunkers. Why? Because they were getting ready for the war. Germany was getting ready for the war, and here it starts. It starts in England, and here the planes are flying all over and dropping bombs. So the people had to get into the bunkers. Where do we go? Luckily, in the house that we lived, there was a sub-basement, and we went there in case the bomb would fall on top of us.
Were you able to ever go out to play with other children?
There is no. You wouldn't dare. There were a couple of children living right almost next door. We were able to, if nobody looked, able to run over to their house, where they lived or where I lived. Or there were people we lived only in a very small apartment house, and there was a boy, and there was also the grandfather was there, and he used to learn with us. Mr. Eschwicker used to learn with us. He was very well versed in Gemara, in Chumash, in everything, and he used to teach his son, who was the same age as I, and taught both of us, because we were just bar mitzvah. 1938, 1939, 13, 14.
Did you ask your parents ever, why was this happening to us?
Did I what?
Did you ask your parents, why is this happening?
There was no way asking, because you're going through the devastation. There is no way of saying, why are they doing it? No way. You wouldn't, because you see it in front of you. You see it right there in front of you. Throw this in front of you, and what do you you would be able to ask now, what are you doing to me? No, but there was no way because this was a mass. And it happened. And it happened so quickly. And it didn't stop. Really. And then this was in 1941.
Do you have the pictures from Fulda to show us?
I have pictures of Fulda in a minute, but first I want to see if I can tell you that story, what it was about. Let me see. I better have it now. And I think it was. That's right. But what other questions do you have?
Well, let me,
Give me questions. I will answer.
what message you could share this with children, with members of the community? What message for today in 2020 could you share with us, based upon what you experienced and what you lived through?
And an experience that we lived through, nobody, even what is happening here these days. When people say, "Look at what's going on," there is absolutely no way how you would ever connect anything like that, because this is all in fear and angst. Where you're going through, nobody ever could help you or would help you. Where are you going? What are you doing?
Is there anything we can do when we hear about anti-Semitism and people saying words of hatred?
What is that?
When we experience or we see about anti-Semitism or people saying hateful words towards other people, other human beings,
You cannot talk here about anti-Semitism. I don't notice anti-Semitism. We don't have it here because of an incident or something that may happen miles away, or other or large cities or anything like that. There is no, really, we are still literally in a free country. Look at what happened. We just elected a new president. The former president says to himself, "It can't happen. I was the best. I was the best. I didn't hurt anybody. I didn't not just hurt anybody, but I was a good man." Why? Because he thought of this. Hitler was different. Hitler was only against the Jews.
Do you think it could happen again?
Could it happen again? I doubt it. It could not happen.
Well, what should we do when we hear people saying hateful words and whether it's
Those are
directed towards
individuals.
Jews?
Those are individual. To me, they're individual. There is no comparison.
But when you speak in schools to children, when you go all over Michigan, all over Wisconsin, all over the country, what's the message that you tell children?
The message it's been a while now since I've been able to give that message. The message is that we're still living in the most wonderful country, and it is depends how we fashion it, how we conduct ourselves, how in front of others. Here, I was sitting out last night in front on the porch and talking to my wife and say, "Look at this. Look at the sky. Look at everything. We have nothing to be afraid of. Our door is open in the morning. As soon as I finished davening, or even while I'm davening, the door is open. If somebody comes by, so what? He doesn't see me, but I'm davening, and I'm davening as a free man. Unfortunately, under the circumstances, we cannot do, because of the sickness, the illness, what is going on in the world. It is worldwide. This is what we have to be afraid of, that we don't be contacted with the same illness.
Are you hopeful for the future?
We are hopeful. I'm hopeful for tomorrow. I'm hopeful for next week. I'm hopeful for always. Yes, but how can it happen if this terrible disease, call it, is world over? They're trying to make it so it heals and it would never happen again. But it continues because people are being connected with others. You are sitting right now several feet away from me. Why? Why aren't you coming to me and shake hands and just talking to me like you would always do that? You see? Why not? Why? Because we have to be very careful so we are not being, what do you call it?
We stay safe.
What?
We should all remain safe.
That's right.
And so what message, that's the last question, what message, you're blessed with children, you and Carol have children, you have grandchildren, kind of hard, you have great-grandchildren, and the great-grandchildren are getting to grow up. What message do you tell your great-grandchildren and share with them about what you experienced 82 years ago to today? And do you feel it's important to share the message with your great-grandchildren? That they should know what you and your family, your parents and your siblings, what you lived through?
Just a moment, please. Ice. Just one moment. Ice.
It's hard to do it outside.
I lost it. What?
It's hard to do it outside. You have a video there. You have a slideshow of your experience.
I was because I have an excellent message right with it, and that message is so great that exactly what you're asking, Ice. But I cannot. No, I cannot. I would have to maybe give it to you later on. I gave it to Rabbi Goldberg yesterday.
In your own words, what is the message that you want?
The message is, in my own words, that what has happened during my childhood, what has happened years ago, something like that, cannot be repeated again, because I'm what I have lost in my family, what I have endured during those times, what I have, the beating that I have taken. I was in the concentration camp from 1941 until 1945. Imagine how much harassment, beating, and everything else.
And even as a child in school, you were.
What?
Even as a child in school, you were.
And it's child in school when I was 6 years old. The teacher already accused me of having stuck out my tongue at Hitler's picture, which was not true. But he had me beaten up by other students, and that's why my parents had to send me away to Bad Nauheim at the age of 6. How many children are being already being punished because they didn't do something, but because people lied to them, and this is something that a life.
And so, what are your dreams for your great-grandchildren? What do you hope for your great-grandchildren?
Well, for my great-grandchildren, that they would grow up in a peaceful world, in a world of love, of harmony, of friendship, of goodness. Anything that they should have would only be the best, and it will not ever be repeated, not just to me or to my family or to anybody, but what I had to endure. It is undescribable what I had to endure. From 4:30 in the morning until 1:30 at night, when people are screaming at you. They were called kapos, concentration camp police, or these were assigned by the Nazis, by the guards. They were to beat us, and these were our own people also that had to do that, and stand. The taskmasters had to stand behind us with sticks like you see around you, and come on, come, and beating you constantly. And you wonder today, how did I ever come out of this as an upstanding young, upstanding old man or upstanding young man, to have taken all this beating? Why didn't I beat back? Because then I would not be here to tell you that story. It was what happened. It started and already, and before Kristallnacht, at especially Kristallnacht.
Well,
But-
you're a blessing to all of us, and Hashem has blessed you
Thank
and
you.
Carol with a wonderful family,
Thank you.
and you're an example to each and every one of us of a devoted, committed Jew. Your commitment to community and to shuls and what you've done for Young Israel Southfield community, and your presence, and the fact that even though now for safety reasons you can't physically be in shul, but you continue 3 times a day to daven and to learn Torah, and you're what all of us should aspire to be, and we're grateful to you. And Hashem should grant you and Carol just many, many more years of health
Thank
and
you.
of happiness and joy,
Thank you.
and to live in a world where there's shalom, where
Thank
there's
you.
peace for all
Thank you.
mankind.
Thank
you
you.
very much.
And here, when I daven at Mizrach, which is right here on our wall. I don't know if you noticed that, the Mizrach.
Facing
is-
Eretz Yisrael.
It is facing Yerushalayim, right? And
Well, we should-
therefore, when I daven, I never go to the left, I never go to the right, or I never go in back of me to daven. I only daven into one direction, and the direction is where Mizrach leads me.
Well,
And
you should continue to march forward, and we should all join you heading towards and arriving
Thank you.
in Eretz Yisrael in Yerushalayim. Thank you so much.
Thank you.